Dmrtv Debate. For centuries, science and religion have been at the heart of shaping human civilization, one grounded in empirical inquiry and reason, the other in faith and divine revelation. Yet, despite their profound impact on knowledge and belief systems, they have not often been cast on opposing forces, locked in an ideological struggle over truth, existence, and the nature of the universe. Some argue that science advancement continuously erode religious explanations, rendering them obsolete in modern world, while others contend that science and religion address different dimensions of human experience and can indeed complement each other rather than exist in contradiction. Tonight, we have two intellectual powerhouses on opposing camps. They would be arguing whether science and religion are compatible. A debate, dear viewers, is science and religion are not compatible and cannot coexist. So we would be looking at the fact, measure the rods, and then give you counter arguments on this topic. It's going to be an interesting debate. I want to urge you, dear viewers. Tonight, we have four panelists. We have Brother Jude Zong Aka. He is a seminarian on pastoral year here in the Diocese of Buea. We have Brother Bernard Asongne. He is also a seminarian here on pastoral year in the Diocese of Buea. We have Brother those on the opposing camp, those arguing against this motion. We have Brother Franklin Fomukong. He's also a seminarian here on pastoral year here in the Diocese of Buea, as well as Brother Jordan Chiizie. He's present here on the platform. That will constitute our panel tonight. Remember, this is an intellectual exercise. The views held on here by the different speakers are not necessarily their personal views, but for the purpose of this intellectual exercise, they would be coming out with some fact-finding arguments. Also, our debate is guided by some rules. Each of the first speakers have 8 minutes to elaborate on their points, and then the second speakers will come up with 6 minutes to give arguments and counter arguments, and then the final say will come up with the first speakers with 4 minutes each that would give in their closing arguments. We will definitely be monitoring the debaters on their intellectual survey, that is to say the facts that they put on the table, but also most especially their respect of the norms of debate, which time is of the essence. We would all put that together and know which of them can argue more. Well, dear viewers, you also have time to be part of this debate, which of course is why we put a number on the screen. Whenever you feel inspired and whatever these debaters will put up tonight, you can also share with us your thoughts. We'll definitely be reading that at the end of this debate. Once again, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Yannick Funky and I am your moderator tonight. And of course, without much ado, we kickstart our debate right away. And with that, I will be inviting the first speaker for that motion, that is Brother Jude Aka Nzong, to argue for that motion. Brother, you have 8 minutes and your time starts now.
Good evening, dear televiewers. Good evening, the moderators. Good evening to my colleagues on the other side of the panel. This evening, we are arguing on a very interesting topic. Science and religion are incompatible and cannot coexist. Now, to begin, I would like to start by making some definition of terms. The first, what is science? At the very basic level, science is defined as a systematic study of the world or of nature. Aristotle would define it as knowledge, true causes or knowledge of the whys. Why? On the other hand, what is religion? Religion is simply a system of belief and practices. Now, what do we mean when we say two ideas are incompatible, are conflicting, and cannot coexist? Of course, this will simply mean that the idea of religion and that of science cannot be consistently held together without any contradiction. And in order to prove that science and religion are incompatible and cannot coexist, I would like us to look at some fundamentals in the both disciplines, science and religion. Now, most often, people wrongly or falsely understand science and religion as two ways of explaining the world or explaining phenomena and realities in the world, but that is false. My first argument is based on epistemology. Now, what is epistemology? Epistemology is simply the study of knowledge. Now, to show that science and religion are incompatible, I will start by making a distinction on what scientific knowledge is and what religious knowledge is. Now, scientific knowledge is knowledge that is tested and verified, knowledge gotten through experience of the world, knowledge that can be measured, while religious knowledge is knowledge that is gotten through faith or inspiration and not verifiable. Religious knowledge cannot be systematically proven, and it remains only at the level of truth and not knowledge, following the argument of the great ancient philosopher Plato in his book Theotetus, where he says that knowledge is not only truth, but knowledge is proven truth. Given the fact that religious knowledge cannot be proven, it cannot be verified, meanwhile scientific knowledge can be proven and verified, this already shows us that science and religion are completely different. Let me go into the details. The first characteristic of scientific knowledge is that it is objective. To say something is objective, it means that it is independent of the one postulating the theory or giving the explanation. For example, 5 plus 5 is 10. The law of gravity, anything that rises must fall. It does not depend on me who said it. It does not depend on Isaac Newton who stated it first. It does not even, mathematics does not even depend on Pythagoras. But it is universal, it is true to everybody. On the contrast, religious knowledge is very subjective, because first of all, it is based on emotions. It is knowledge based on how people feel. It is knowledge based on a system that cannot be explained without contradiction. How will you explain the fact that in fact religious people, let me be very particular, Christians do not agree on simple facts like the nature of their God? Some believe in a Trinitarian God, some reject that. The differences in doctrine, the variation in doctrines already show the fact that religious knowledge is subjective and cannot be verified. It cannot be proven, it cannot be consistently held without contradiction. Furthermore, religious knowledge is even pushed to the realm of opinion, of beliefs, because it is based on faith and not truth. Again, religious knowledge is knowledge that is based on authority. In religion, authority is truth. Authority is truth. Meanwhile, in sciences, truth is authority. The other way around. That cannot, those principles cannot be held together. Let me give an example to explain the point. What I mean by in religion, authority is truth, and in faith and in sciences, truth is authority. Now, for example, the 88 years old George Mario Bergoglio, if he says that people should homosexual marriage are accepted, two men can get married, it's true. It becomes truth, because in religion the truth is based on authority. Who said it? All of what Christians hold as truth is based on the authority of the Bible. It's in the Bible, it's truth. So authority makes truth. But in science, it's the other way around. It is truth that makes authority. If I am a scientist and I bring about a theory, they don't need to know who brought about the theory. Let us verify it. Let us carry out experiments. Experimentation. That is the way truth is arrived at. And if religion is saying that it should be arrived at based on authority, and science is based on the verifiability of the principle, there is a conflict there, and these two cannot be held together. Now, my next point is based on the fact that there is conflict in the explanation of reality between religion and science. Very basic examples. In religion, we understand the origin of the world to be from God. God created the world, creation in time. But with science, the world was not created. The world evolved from Big Bang theory, the Big Bang theory. Even the nature of man, religion understands man as a creation of God. Thomas Aquinas will say, man or person is the name given to God's most perfect creation. How true is that? How can we prove that? But in sciences, man evolved through the series of evolution, as Darwin tells us in Story of Evolution. This difference in explanation of reality already shows that we cannot hold religion and science together. They have different understanding of what reality is about. The next argument is religious resistance to scientific progress. Down the ages, religion has always stood as an obstacle to scientific progress. It is very evident in history. Let us take the example of the nature of the movement of the earth. The religious leaders held that in the planetary system, the earth was moving, and the solar system and the other satellites, the sun, the moon, were stationary. Later on, with the research of Galileo Galilei and others like Niccolo Copernicus, they realized that it was the other way around. It is rather the earth that is moving, and the other planetary bodies are stationary, opposed to what Christianity held. When that happened, sorry to say it, but it's true. That's what history teaches us. Galileo Galilei was killed by religious leaders, most probably the Roman Catholic authority of the church, because by then they had political power they could do such things. The church has always persecuted scientists. Now, the Roman Catholic Church, let me talk about this, I know more. The Roman Catholic Church is against stem cell research. The prohibition, science wants to investigate, science wants to understand the nature of the world. But religious leaders always stand in opposition. Even the method of birth control, when in the 1960s, when contraceptives were invented, a way of limiting the birth rate among people, especially Africans, the church, the Roman Catholic Church, opposed that seriously, and before we knew it, they went and published Humane Vitae to oppose the progress of sciences. So we see that down the ages, religious leaders have always been in opposition with sciences, especially when it comes to ethical issues. Like I was mentioning, the issue of childbirth, birth control, when science wants to invent. And to conclude this first part of my argument, I would like to move to the goal of religion and sciences. Now, the goal of religion is a preparation for a transcendental life. The goal of religion is salvation, taking man to another life after this life. But that's not the goal of sciences. Sciences are focused on this earth and making man's life on earth a better one. Religion will invent the notion of man is a pilgrim. Earth is not our home. We are pilgrims, because it is focused The focus is different. The focus is not this life. It's not making man comfortable here and now. It's not making man, the focus of religion is not to make man to enjoy this life, but rather is to prepare man for another life. That is why Friedrich Nietzsche, the great German philosopher, will say that religion is a life-denying force, because it removes the focus of man from this earth to another life, which is still an invention that cannot be proven. Meanwhile, on the other hand, science is aimed at making earth man's home, is aimed at inventing, discovering, and making man stay on earth an enjoyable and pleasant one. And the same philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, will say science is a life-affirming force, while religion is a life-denying force. With this, I come to the end of the first part of my arguments.
Thank you very much, Brother Jude Aka Zong, for spending your time. Though you went way beyond time, but we got your point. Thank you very much. Now, just to tell the viewers, this is Dmrtv Debate, coming to you live from Dmrtv here in the Diocese of Boya. And our panelists are arguing religion and science are not compatible, and so cannot coexist, or cannot live in coexistence. Yes. So we're going to invite our second speaker, which is of course the first speaker against this motion. And with that, I am pleased to invite Brother Jordan Chiizie to argue against that motion. Brother, you have 8 minutes and your time starts now.
Greeting televiewers. All protocols duly observed. I am against the motion that science and religion are incompatible and cannot be reconciled together. Before I set the ball rolling, it will be important I define some key terms. 1. Science. Science is a system and an organized body of knowledge that aims to understand the natural and physical world through observation, questions formation, research, experimentation, analysis, and conclusion. Religion. Religion refers to a system of beliefs, practices, and values that individuals or communities hold as sacred, often revolving around a supreme being or a divine. Next, incompatibility. This refers to the ability of two or more things not being able to work together or coexist. With this, permit me to now begin with my own argument. From a cosmological point of view, the study of the origin of the universe, evolution, and the fate of the universe has led to a discussion about the role of the creator or a higher power. Both Christian philosophers and scientists, they seek to understand the origin of the universe, which means all of them seek to understand one thing, which is the origin of the universe. Saint Augustine holds that the universe was created by God ex nihilo. In support to this, Thomas Aquinas integrated Aristotelian philosophy with Christian theology to postulate that the universe was created by God. On the other hand, Albert Einstein introduced the theory of relativity revolutionarization, that is a new way of understanding the cosmos, which means everything was centered or it hovers around the understanding about the basic origin of the universe, which means both science and religion, they are all aimed at the same thing, understanding the origin of the universe. Again, science and religion, they all seek to understand or answer the fundamental question: where and how did the universe come about? Even if some will use empirical method or divine truth, all of them aim at the same thing. More to that, science and religion, they have both attempted to explain natural events such as the creation, the emergence of life, and the working of the human body. Francis Collins, the American physician, holds that science and religions are complementary ways of understanding the universe and the natural phenomena. He says they operate in different ways but yet addressing the same problem. To get into this studio, I may pass through this door and we decide to pass through the other back door to get into this studio. The aim is entering the studio, not the means I use to enter the studio. So science and religion, the aim is to attain to a particular truth. No matter the means, they have different means. Religion deals with divine or revealed truth. Science deals with experimental truth, but all of them are seeking to attain truth. Also, both science and religion have contributed to the development of the environmental ethics, emphasizing the importance of responsibility, the care of natural world, and the care of the ecosystem. In his encyclical letter, Laudato Si, Pope Francis encourages people of all faiths and background to work together to protect the universe and to promote a more sustainable future. In line with that, Stephen Carlett, a biologist, highlights the importance of preserving biodiversity and promoting ecological sustainability. In a nutshell, both science and religion are complementary to each other and they can be reconciled. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Jordan Chigizie, for your insight. Well, that was the first speaker against. And so we're going to stop the clock from ticking and inviting the second speaker for the motion. Science and religion are science and religion are incompatible and cannot be reconciled. That's the topic. Now we're inviting the second speaker for that motion, that is Brother Bernard Asonem, to give his arguments and counter arguments to substantiate his point. And of course, he does that in 6 minutes. And Brother Bernard, your time starts now.
Thank you very much, my own very most honorable moderator, for this opportunity given to me again. And greetings to all our televiewers out there. During the course of these debates, I shall be arguing for the motion that science and religion are incompatible and cannot be reconciled. Listening closely to my opponent speak, the feeling and thought which runs through my mind and heart and comes out so clearly is the fact that I find myself struggling to understand a man who aims at reconciling an inflated balloon and a needle. Indeed, the results will obviously be disastrous. There are two words which take central stage in these debates. They include 1, science, and 2, religion, that my very learned colleague on my side has elaborately explained. But I will throw some light to it until we are able, my dear listeners, my dear televiewers, to make clear-cut distinction and subtle distinctions of these terms. Then I can say with all confidence that we have not yet started the debates. Going through the 4 great periods of philosophy, that is the ancient periods, the medieval periods, the modern periods, and finally the contemporary periods, it tells us that knowledge has grown systematically from one age to another in the history of philosophical inquiry. These stages and these ages include the following. 1, we have the religious age, the metaphysical age, and lastly, the scientific age. These various ages of philosophical inquiries have their specific differences, have their specific characteristics regarding the source of explanation, the method of knowing, and finally, their focus. Now, to religious age, the source of explanation remains supernatural being and forces, supernatural being or forces, gods. And the method of knowing when it comes to the religious age has to do with faith and authority, as my very brother on my side has propounded loudly. The focus here is understanding the world from the lens of the sacred and the divine. With metaphysical age, the source of explanation remains the abstract concepts, essences, and unseen forces. The method of knowing remains reasoning and speculation. And finally, the focus here is understanding principles and the causes of things. And now, to the final stage, which is the scientific age. The source of explanation of the scientific age remains natural phenomena. And the method of knowing when it comes to the scientific age remains observation and experimentation. The focus here is natural laws and empirical analysis. Now, I think the ground is clear enough for me to marshal my points. I shall talk on 2 points. Number 1, the fundamental differences in method and approach when we are talking about science and religion. And number 2, we are going to answer the philosophical question, where does science lead us to, and where does religion lead us to? Number 1, the fundamental difference in method and approach when talking about science and religion. In one of Thomas Aquinas' discourse on natural theology, he asserts, and I quote, that although there is progress amidst the human race in understanding truths of natural reason, Aquinas, the angelic doctor, thinks, one of which I hold so dearly, that there are truths that are totally beyond this intellect. There are truths that are totally beyond mere intelligence, human intelligence, intelligence of the entire human race. This quote from the angelic doctor places religion way far and high above science, as certain truths which are not known by science are perceived and grasped to its fullest level by religion only. We can confidently say from the standpoint and categorically that religion stands as a higher light to science. How does it stand as a higher light to science? Let's get into it. Religion, talking about empiricism and observation. Science relies on observable evidence, experimentation, and the testing of hypotheses. It's a method based on natural world and its regularities. Whereas, where is religion? Where does religion stand? Religion is or belongs and is rooted in the supernatural, relies on faith, personal experience, and sacred texts, just like the Bible, the Quran for the Islam, and others for other religion, as primary sources of knowledge rather than empirical evidence. Falsifiability. Scientific theories must be potentially falsifiable, meaning there must be ways to prove them wrong. Meanwhile, religious doctrines are often considered immutable truths that are not subject to change or questioning based on any evidence. For religion, truth carries a very, very bearing ground and bears the following properties. From our study of nosology, or you may like to put it epistemology, it tells us that truth has the various properties. Truth is one, truth is indivisible, truth is immutable, truth is absolute, and above all, truth is knowable by man. All of these characteristics, all of these properties are as opposed to what science holds, because the truth of science remains relative, remains subjective. With all this, we will only come to realize that these approaches are at odds, creating tensions that makes genuine compatibility difficult. Now, let's answer the second question, the very philosophical question: where does science lead us to? And where does religion lead us to? A very pertinent question we must answer. You must go home with it. From our above stated propositions, we have clearly seen that based on the approaches used by science and religion, they can have no meeting point. Scientists will say that they have heroes to whom they pay respect, they give honor to, but they are not authorities to whom they go to check solutions to scientific problems. Einstein, it's a very good example. In the 20th century, we are told that Einstein wrote so much on the theory of gravitation. But now, do you expect young scientists of today to still flip through the pages of Einstein to study and to have grasp and to have knowledge of gravitation? No. Obviously, they will make use of what they have. But what does religion do? Religion is always attributed to a God, to an authority who is unchanging, who is immutable, who does not change, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His principles are still. His principles do not change. Religion has a complete different path that it leads us to. The path, number one, is the path of meaning and transcendence. Guiding principles. When I talk of the path of meaning, here we answer the question, the WH questions. Who am I? Where am I going to? What is my purpose? Religion makes us to perceive our purpose as men living in a world who begin from somewhere, that is the terminus at quo, and are heading towards a particular direction, the terminus at quem, and I will call it the telos. Where is our telos? Our telos is not in this world of realities, but in the suprasensible realities. Science stays here, but religion takes us to that other side of the bridge. Science, the path of understanding and empirical knowledge, it seeks to understand the natural world, proving explanations for how natural world works, for the smallest particles to the largest structure. Science also talks of material progress. Now, let me conclude. Borrowing the thoughts of Edmund Husserl, the father of phenomenology, he refers to science as a period crowded with anthropocentric relativism. Yet, man is the center of what is true and what is false. But religion, Christ is the center of what is true and what is true and what is false. Because Christ remains the way, the truth, and the light. From these aforementioned, the inherent differences in methodology, epistemology, and the way they approach fundamental questions makes science and religion completely incompatible and cannot be reconciled with each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Jordan. Brother Bernard Asone, concluding your counter arguments there as the second speaker for that motion. Now we're going to straight away invite the second speaker against the motion, that is Brother Franklin Formucom, to share his own thoughts and give his counter argument on this topic. Science and religion are incompatible and cannot be reconciled. Brother Franklin, you have 6 minutes to mature your points, and your time starts now.
Cardinal, gracias to you, the moderator, for giving me this opportunity to discuss on such a topic. Science and religion are incompatible and cannot be reconciled. And this, today I stand to argue against the motion. Therefore, I am to say science and religion are compatible and can be reconciled. Now, let's get it clear when it comes to religion. Religion, from its Latin root religare, binds us to a supreme being. That's one of the fundamental properties of religion. It binds us to a supreme being. Not any kind of religion are we going to take into consideration in this debate. I will narrow down myself to the kind of religion I want to use for this kind of debate. Why do I say so? Because the ancient Greek religion which postulate several gods, like the god of the sea, the god of the wind, the god of the moon, the god of the sun. All these religions, those kind of religions, are incompatible with science. I don't argue that. For example, a scientist today cannot believe in the god of the sea, Poseidon, or the god of the wind. Why? Because from his scientific background, he has come to know what the sea is. He has come to know why there is wind. Why do the world operate the world the way it operates? So, such a scientist will not believe in such a religion. And from that kind of perspective, science and religion are incompatible. But I shall make use for this debate the three monotheistic religions: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And I shall argue from the dimension of the object of these religions. And what is the object of these religions? God. I shall today not prove, but provide sufficient evidence to demonstrate that the object of religion, God, does not conflict nor compete with science, but complements science. And as such, I shall try to answer one question: where does science point to? Does it point to believing God, ultimately religion, theism? Or does science point to no belief in God, atheism? And I have two arguments to postulate this evening, since time is not our ally. First argument, the explanation of the phenomena. Now, when it comes to explanations of how things go about in the world, there are two possible ways of presenting explanations. And I give you an illustration, then an example, then I state what I mean by explanation of phenomena. Now, if me standing here before you, I place a cup or a kettle of water on a gas plate, and I switch on the gas, the flames are burning, and you ask me, Franklin, why is the water in the kettle boiling? There are two possible explanations I could give you. The first explanation I could give you from a scientific perspective is as follows. First, the heat from the flames of the gas is being conducted to the walls of the kettle. And when these walls are being heated up, the walls tend to heat the water which is in the kettle. And as such, the water molecules begin to move faster and the temperature rises and the water begins to boil. That is a scientific explanation of why the water in the kettle is boiling. Another explanation for why the water in the kettle is boiling is simply because me, Franklin, I want to drink a cup of tea. So there are two possible explanations. There is a scientific explanation to things, a mechanistic explanation, and there is an agent explanation, a personal explanation to the way things move. I move now to an example. If you ask me today, or you ask a scientist, why do planets in the solar system orbit, that's the move, they revolve around the sun, why do they do so? A scientist will tell you, because of the gravitational force the sun exerts on this planet, because of angular momentum, because of orbital motion, because of Kepler and Newton's laws of motion, because of Kepler's laws of planetary motion and Newton's laws of universal gravitation. Those are scientific explanations. If you ask a religious man, why is it that planets move around the sun? He will tell you, simply because God made them so. And these explanations, my dear friends, do not conflict. They do not contradict each other. They complement each other. Why is the water boiling in the kettle? It's because I want to drink a cup of tea. Now, the problem here, my dear brothers and sisters, is not science. Science has no problem. The problem here is what we call scientism. And what is scientism? Scientism is the theory that science alone can explain everything. And there lies the problem. Two examples shall I postulate to you that science cannot explain everything. One, can you scientifically prove, you as a man in the wife, that your wife loves you? You cannot. If they give you a piece of paper that scientifically proves that the woman you have been living in the house with for 20 years loves you. You cannot. Me standing here, I cannot scientifically prove, using data analysis, using several theories, that my mother loves me. But I can only provide to you evidence that she loves me. She pays my school fees and all those. From that, I can say she loves me. That's for the realm of explanations. My second argument is based on history. Science grew out in the 16th and 17th centuries from Christian Western Europe. Do research. They call that period the scientific revolution. It was after the scientific revolution that we had what we call the industrial revolution. Science grew out of Christian Western Europe, and all those who stood as bulwarks of the scientific world were Christians. Do research. Galileo was a Christian. Kepler was a Christian. Isaac Newton was a Christian. Clerk Maxwell, these men believed in God. Few days ago, I stepped into an opposite class and I met a student studying biology. I threw my eyes in the textbook which was using BS, biological science. And my eyes fell on a certain name there, Mendel. That's Johann Mendel, the father of modern day genetics. And I asked him, do you know who Mendel is? He said, yes, brother, I know who Mendel is. He's the father of modern genetics. I said, beyond that and even before that, do you know who Mendel is? He said, no, brother, he's just the father of modern genetics. I said, Mendel was an Augustinian friar. Mendel was a monk. The person who discovered genetics, through whom till today we can now determine if a short man gets married to a tall man, if a short woman gets married to a tall man, okay, they can give birth to 2 children who are short and 1 who is tall. All genetics, heredity, all of these discoveries were made by Mendel, an Augustinian friar, a monk. From his religious perspective, he could now think scientifically. That's for Mendel. Now we move over also to what we call in recent times the Nobel Prize Award. It's a prize. Why do I bring it in this my argument? The Nobel Prize Award is a prize which has been given to scientists who have been making top discoveries since the year 1901. And among those who have received this international award, 65% of them are Christians. They believe in God. I give you an example. Christian de Duve. He received the Nobel Award, the Nobel Prize Award in the year 1974 in medicine for discovering lysosomes. When you study biology, you know that lysosomes are responsible for cellular digestion. Christian de Duve is a Christian. And ultimately, my dear brothers, ultimately, let's fall back to Isaac Newton, the father of modern science. When Newton, before the age of 26, discovered the laws of motion, ultimately he discovered the laws of universal gravitation, gravity. When Newton had made all these scientific discoveries and exploits, he wrote perhaps one of the most greatest books in the world of science, the Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica. And in the preface of that book, Newton tells us it is his hope that thinking men may come to believe in God. I now end my arguments by quoting 2 very serious authors. The first, Sir Peter Meadower. Peter Meadower tells us that science cannot answer the basic questions of a baby. Where do things come from and where do they end? We now see in these statements of Peter Meadower the complementarity of science and religion. Religion tells us, or what my colleague shall expound on more later, religion answers the question of why. Why are things the way they are? Why science tells us how they are. Religion tells us why the world is the way it is. Why is it this way? Science tells us how the world is. And I end again with the second serious author, Clive Staples Lewis, C.S. Lewis. He stated, men became scientific because they expected laws in nature. And men expected laws in nature because they believed in a lawgiver. It is from such a statement also that Thomas Aquinas in his Summa Theologiae, the Prima Pars Question 2 Article 3, used the order of things in the world to prove that there is a God. and my dear viewers, my dear panelists, to further this debate, since it is a very sweet topic, get back to a certain author. He's an Oxford mathematician, John Lennox. Read his book, God's Undertaker, Has Science Buried God? It is with this that I come to the conclusion of my arguments by stating science and religion do not conflict, neither do they compete. They complement. Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother Franklin Fomokong. Remember, dear viewers, that on Dmrtv Debate, we believe in the force of argument and not the argument of force. And that is why we give our debaters enough time to elaborate on the point. Well, with that, I'll be inviting the first speaker for the motion, science and religion are incompatible and cannot be reconciled. And it is Brother Jude Akazong to give his concluding remarks. Brother, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you very much, the moderator. To give my concluding remarks, I would like to, or prefer to comment on what the last speaker against the motion, some of the things he mentioned. At the beginning of his argument, he made a very beautiful explanation of the mechanism of how water boils, and he gave a scientific explanation which I say is true, and which I think our audience think is true, and which I know that everyone watching this debate anywhere in the world will say is true. That is because the argument, that is because the explanation was scientific. That's why it's true. Now, the second part of that argument, the why the water is boiling. Brother said the water is boiling because he wants to drink a cup of tea. Of course, none of us agrees with that, because if somebody had entered that same room and asked me why is the water boiling, I would say the water is boiling because I'm about to kill my fowl. Yes, that is my own reason. Now, that is the problem with religion. Religious explanation are opinions. They are not truth. They are not truth. Truth has to be objective. Truth has to be universal. Truth does not have to remain with you alone. So you see, why is the water boiling? Because you want to drink a cup of tea, it's true. Because I want to kill my fowl, it's true. Because I want to bathe, it's true. That's how religious knowledge is. It is opinion. It is personal. So it is not truth at all. So it should be discarded. It cannot be held. It's not tenable. And the qualities of truth. Truth has to be objective, universal, as the scientific part of your argument was. The second thing, my opponent said the problem is not science, but scientism. Beautiful. I will tell you too, the problem is not religion, but religiosity. What is religiosity? Religiosity is when religion claims to have every answer. The same way as science is when science claims to have every answer. Now, you and I will agree that religion should have no cosmology. Religion should give no cosmological explanation of the world. Religion should remain within the sphere of morality, within the sphere of a transcendent God. The mistakes of religion that cause the conflict in science is when religion starts to interfere in the things of nature, of the functioning and operation of the world. The famous example of Galileo's stance, when religious authorities said that the earth is stationary and heavenly bodies are rotating. Galileo, after a period of research, came out with a response. It is rather the earth that is rotating, that is in motion, while the scientific bodies are stationary, and he was killed for that. So with that, you see that religiosity is the problem, not even the God, because the object, he started by mentioning the object of religion is a God. Of course, I will not go into arguing that, because Christopher Hitchens says it very well. The only reason why God, the authority of religion, is not a tyrant is simply because he does not exist. If God had existed, he would be a tyrant, because everything that religion says is based on the authority. God has inspired, God has done, God has not done. And that leads to the third part of my argument, consensus. There is no consensus between religions. There is no consensus between what religious groups hold to be true. Some believe in the incarnation. Some believe in reincarnation. When people die, they come back in lower form animals. When people die, they go to heaven, they go to the ancestors. There's no agreement. How can we hold on to a stem of knowledge that is not in agreement? Meanwhile, scientific knowledge is in agreement. Now, to conclude, my opponent was quoting history very beautifully. Now, I wish to say that if at this age you are still embracing religion and thinking that religion and science can coexist, you are making a very big mistake. Now, religion is the younger form of science. Let me use Auguste Comte to explain this. Now, Auguste Comte is a logical positivist. What did he say? He said, in the beginning, when humans started questioning the nature of the world, when human beings wanted to understand the operations of the world, they explained the world in a religious manner, using religious tone. God did this. In fact, religion was should I say passport? God was a notion that was invented to fill in every gap that could not be explained, that man could not grasp. That's why in the early stage of human existence, everything is explained in terms of God. That is the first stage. The second stage, the metaphysical stage, where things are explained in terms of abstract concepts. Man is body and soul. You invent a soul. You have to, because you don't really understand how he can will, how he operates. You have to invent something. It's even very common. I think the examples are even abstract. Very simple examples. Before the invention of, before we could notice, before science could discover what malaria was, people thought that malaria was a curse from the gods, a religious explanation of things. That is the primary stage. After some time, they said no, it could be caused by this thing. They had no clear knowledge. That was still the metaphysical stage. But now, with the mature state of man's knowledge, man does not need religion. When science set in, religion should give way. We don't need to explain. I should not have malaria and I start explaining that it's because the gods are angry with me. I need to go and appease my father who died. I need to go. That is the religious explanation of the world, which should be discarded. It is no longer relevant. Now science will explain to us consistently. This is what caused. This is what is causing this thing in you. That is the scientific stage, which we ought to embrace and discard the religious stage. And as Sam Harris will put it, there is nothing like religious knowledge. Religion knows nothing. It is only ignorance. It is ignorance. And even as St. Paul put it, when what is perfect comes, what is imperfect should give way. Religion and science cannot coexist. Religion is a small light that was shining in when there was no science, when science was still very immature. That was shining, that was lighting up the way. But now with science, it's just like the moon and the sun cannot coexist. Religion is the moon, it gives a dim light. Science is the sun. When the sun is rising, the moon should set. That is it. Science and religion cannot coexist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Jude Zong Aka, for giving us your concluding remarks. Now, let us invite the last speaker for against this motion. With that, we bring in Brother Jordan Chiizie to give us his concluding remarks. Brother, you have 4 minutes and your time starts now.
Scientific truth elapses with the passage of time, but divine truth remains eternal. It doesn't die off with passage of time. All protocols respected. I don't want to get into the polemics of my opponent, so I will avoid it as much as possible, and I'll answer just a fundamental question: why should science and religion have a meeting point? Religion offers a moral and ethical framework for understanding the implications of scientific discoveries, which means science on her own is blind. She needs religion to direct her. Religion emphasizes on the values and the dignity of human life. especially on scientific domains like genetic engineering. If we kick off religion, science will mislead a lot of people. In fact, it is already misleading a lot of people. So there is need for religion to come back and shape it. Religion also educates individuals to consider the potential consequences of their actions. Next, religion and science, when put together, helps us to explore and get knowledge of new concepts. But working on one alone, it limits or delimits an individual on basic knowledge and truth of everything. Science and religion, when they are put together, it enriches and gives a fruitful knowledge. It deepens our understanding of the human existence and the world around us. So, do you still hold so tenaciously that science and religion have no meeting point or cannot coexist? Without much ado or say about nothing, I reaffirm my stand that science and religion can coexist together, and they are already coexisting together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Jordan Chiizie, for concluding your point. And with that, we want to thank all the debaters for sharing their intellectual savvy tonight. Matter of fact, it was an interesting intellectual exchange from the debaters, from the facts to their respect of the opinions of each of the opponents, show that they are mature in their art. Well, dear viewers, it is for you to judge and give your own sentence whether religion and science coexist and, of course, can be reconciled. Well, we would have loved to bring to you the church's teaching on this topic, but then be rest assured that the church stands. Religion and science coexist, and the church is very clear on it that religion and science work hand in tandem. With that, dear viewers, we would put a cap on today's edition of Dmrtv Debate. My name is Yannick Fonke, the moderator tonight, and for the panelists, we had those four. Brother Jude Akanzong, he was for the motion. We had Brother Bernard Asongne, he was for the motion. Those against, we had Brother Jordan Chiizie, he was against the motion, as well as Brother Franklin Fomokong. These are all seminarians on pastoral gear here in the Diocese of Buea. They're making great strides on Dmrtv Debate. Well, we want to also thank Brother Ambrose Tassan, who manned the broadcasting and transmission and gave us quality images and sound. We meet again next week Saturday on yet another edition of Dmrtv Debate. The time is 9 p.m. Let us meet again.